We're live.
Yeah.
No, I'm just messing around.
Good. So we are live now. So welcome everyone to Meshery development meeting. Today is 8th of March and happy Holi to everyone. So with that, we'll follow our weekly Lay 5 tradition to welcome newcomers. So if you are joining this call for the first time and you haven't say hi yet, so feel free to unmute yourself and give a quick introduction. So do we have newcomers? I don't think so.
Oh yeah, I was just looking across the names. Yeah, is there anyone that's on the call today that hasn't been on this particular call in the past and also hasn't been able to say hi, just to introduce themselves?
Yes, Lee. Hi.
Hey, Gurpreet.
So this is my first time on Dev Meet, I guess. Yeah, I've been to website meet before. This is my first time here. Yeah. So hi everyone. Myself Gurpreet, and I'm from India. And I'm studying Bachelor of Computer Science from Populating Gwalior. And yeah, I'm a DevOps and blockchain enthusiast, and currently contributing to Dev5. Thank you, everyone.
Yeah, Gurpreet, you said triple IT Gwalior, and I've been practicing how to pronounce that university name because I think there's at least a few other people here from the same university, maybe some even on this call. Anybody else attend that university? Oh man, okay. I thought it was. Mr. Sharma, you don't, do you? No, I'm getting it confused.
Actually, I'm from ITM, not triple ITM.
Okay. Okay. All right. Fine. Is it the same city though? Same area, or am I getting it confused?
Yeah, same city.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
That's good. Welcome to the call, Gurpreet. You already have a topic in meeting minutes. That's great. So I don't think anyone is new here. I think Sayan Mondal.
Yeah. This is Pulok. This is also my first time I have attended the development meeting, Manish. Before I have attended the newcomers meeting. So first time I am attending here. So let me introduce myself. This is Pulok. I am working in a startup company from Bangladesh. Interested about open source in the Kubernetes area. Golang is my go-to language, and recently I am trying to contribute in the backend area of the Meshery. That's it.
That's great. Nice to have you, Pulak. So, yeah, I don't think I'm missing anyone. So if I'm missing, I'll just pause for 3 seconds. Feel free to interrupt me.
Manav Burma, have you gotten a chance to introduce yet?
Hello everyone, this is my second time I am attending a newcomer meeting. My name is Manav. I am a BCA third year student. I am working with Laravel and React.js. Currently I am new to cloud technologies, so I am first exploring these technologies. And after that I will start contributing to Meshery.
Cool. That's great. Welcome to the call, Manav. Okay, so with that, let's move with today's topic. So first up, we have two cool announcements. So first announcement is about our newest meshmate, Yash Sharma. So we have Yash Sharma, our newest meshmate. So he's on the call. So Yash would like to say a few words.
Yeah, sure. So I joined this community like in January second week, and I started contributing here. And I also stuck so many things, and the contributors here and the other meshmates helped me, and the maintainers helped me to contribute in the layer 5. And I think now I will try my best to help others to contribute here and grow together. And thank you, Leo, and everyone for this, for helping me to become a mesh.
That's cool. Wonderful, Yash. And if anyone don't know who is a Meshmate and how you can pair with a Meshmate, do join Layer 5's newcomers call on Thursday. So next announcement we have for Meshery UI and adapter maintainer. So let's welcome our newest maintainer, Antonette Caldwell. So she's also on the call. So welcome, Antonette. Would like to say a few words.
Hello, everyone. I just want to say I appreciate you all nominating and choosing me to become the new maintainer. I'm actually I have no words at this moment. So I read the open post on LinkedIn, and I actually didn't realize I had over 100 PR. So I was just like, wow, I didn't know that. So but I look forward to working with everybody, getting to know everybody when I can, and that's it for me. So
Nice. Yeah. By the way, I'll add on that. Yeah, that's exactly a perfect response. Is like, yeah, that you didn't know that you had that many because you weren't counting them because it wasn't about counting them. But as you've been busy and as you've been making waves, yeah, they just pile up. And the thing is about mentioning something like that is like, well, it's a fantastic milestone. It's also kind of frustrating to mention something like that because it's like, well, yeah, but what about the other 100 or 200 that you've reviewed and offered feedback on and helped curate and made sure that those landed, even though those weren't attributed to this count? It's like there's so much other effort that goes unquantified. So I don't know. It's too bad we don't have better metrics, but it's a cool one nonetheless.
That's cool. Congratulations again, Antonette. So let's move to today's agenda item. So first up on the list, we have Gurpreet with populating content field and Mesheryctl error fix. So Gurpreet, would like to share your screen?
Yeah, sure. We got it. Right. Share screen. Right, everyone, right?
Nope, it's not. We can't see it, Gurpreet, and your voice isn't coming through either, unfortunately.
Okay, I told you now, my internet connection is not well to, I guess.
If you want, I can share my
can
screen.
you
And,
open this?
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Yep, Gurpreet, we are on. Okay, yeah, you're sharing. Cool. It's still black. So Gurpreet, I think we can circle back to you if that's okay.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, okay.
There's no choice. Doesn't matter. There's no choice. And Gurpreet, maybe your bandwidth will get better later in the meeting. If it doesn't, I also recommend doing a recording if you can in advance, and then that way someone else can share it while you speak over it. Cool.
Oh.
What's next?
Yep. So next up we have Yash Sharma on fixed text selection across design and drawer.
Yeah, sure. I have two things to talk about. Let me share my screen.
Hey, by the way, Mr. Meshmate, your voice is quite low. I think it might be that your microphone is perhaps not picking up your voice.
Okay, so voice is clear now.
Moderately better. Yeah.
Okay, I actually am at my hometown right now, so it might be possible that you may see the bandwidth issue and microphone issue.
I think I think your bandwidth is okay. I tried this for me, like shove the microphone down your throat, like put it in front of you. There you go. Hey, oh, there it is. What do you know?
Okay. Yeah, so let me share my screen. So here we are. So as you can see, we have previously discussed that in the mesh map that we have this selection issue that you can see. This should not be selected. So I have fixed, and I will raise the PR for this after this call. So the second thing I have to talk about is the previously that we have discussed that about the user experience that user will get whenever they go to this component, and that I suggested that if we will add the drop shadow in this component, it will help user to get an suggestion that this particular component is draggable. But I don't think now I don't think this is a best approach to show the user that by adding drop shadow in this component that this is a draggable component. So what I'm asking is that if anyone have a good suggestion about to show that this is a draggable component, not about a drop shadow, that would be grateful. Or if not, then I think we can take this issue later. This is not I think a correct approach that I'm trying with drop shadow.
Yep, makes sense. Hey, do you know how this shows up in the design configurator? So if you navigate to the left-hand menu, there's I think it's the wrenches on the very, very left of the Meshery UI menu.
Are you talking about this one?
Oh. Nope, outside of MeshMap in Meshery UI.
Yes.
It's the third from the top. I think it's like the couple of wrenches. There should be, under here, there's a designs menu item. And a lot of times we'll refer to this as the design configurator because it's a form-based view of the way that you can configure the infrastructure, which is appropriate for this call. I mean, sometimes it's okay to talk about the extensions, MeshMap and things, but generally for the MeshMap calls. It's been, do you mind if you create a new design? I'm curious because related to this, there's been a big, a significant Meshery release as of the 6.62. That release moved the project from including a small collection of components to having a pretty sizable collection of components inside of the mesh model, the model that Meshery uses to configure infrastructure. I'm curious what happens if you click the drop down in the upper left-hand corner where the Meshery icon is. Okay, well, we're only representing a couple of components here, and you're running 6.62, which probably should have a really long list of models, and we don't. So that's an issue that we need to address. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, sure. So this is update from my side. Yeah, this is an issue.
Cool. Yeah.
Okay. Yash, do you mind opening up that issue for us?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Yash. So next up we have Manish on review needs on codesee-maps and an update on Discuss Forum. Manish, would like to share your screen?
Yeah, sure. Just a second. So I hope you all can see my screen. So this is just like Gaurav told me to open a discuss form for call for feedback for codesee-maps for Meshery. So basically codesee is like if you know hover up to like Meshery GitHub repo, and here like you can see. So basically codesee-maps is a feature which like shows you the implementation of what you have changed, and it's something similar to that. So yeah, if you have any suggestions or feedback on it, so you can drop your suggestions and feedbacks on like discussion from here.
Yeah, cool. I'll just quickly simplify it. So it's like a suggestion we need from maintainers, contributors, and PR reviews that do they find codesee as a good or as a like tool that helps in PR review, or like does it add a value in the PR review process? So there's a post open up by Manish, so you all can write your suggestions and feedback over there. So anything else from you, Manish?
Sorry for that. So yeah, like on discussion form, so I was trying to cope up with all the discussions that are open. So I have this query, like there are like many discussions that have been opened like in past 2 or 3 years, like they are from 2021 to 2022, and we have no updates there. So what should we do that? Like we should create a new discussion form and address that issues, or we can like do something to like give answer to that. I think that will not make sense.
Yeah, see if that's answered in the recent discussions or not. So like if that's being answered, link to that particular solution and mark it as close.
Okay, sure. And also like there are many discussions. I'm going to show you. So like people don't like people don't usually answer to that. So like every time I have to tag people for that, or what should I
Yeah,
do in
Manish, we can
case?
take over this
Yeah.
conversation in Slack.
Oh, sure.
Okay. Thank you for your update, Manish.
Just a quick note on that to Manish's point, there's a lot of questions that go out there. Some percentage of them get answered. Actually, I'm not sure what percentage get answered. Manish, next time we meet, it'd be nice to know what percentage has been answered. And it would actually be nice to know who our top 3 solution providers are. It'd be nice to recognize those individuals. I think part of what Manish is also maybe calling for is help in answering some questions or help in asking some questions. We tend to lose Slack history over after a while, and there's a lot of knowledge that gets lost, a lot of tribal knowledge. So getting it out there onto the discussion forum is helpful. But we need to start recognizing people and embarrassing them because it's fun and because they deserve to be recognized for helping others. So nice. What's next?
So next up we have maintainer Antonette's update. Yeah,
Okay,
I
so
like seeing maintainer.
Yes. So my current update right now, I do have a few open issues, but just not to tie up the phone call. This current issue that I'm working on is the create the design system for Meshery itself. So I have a couple of repos that I would like to do a walkthrough on another phone call, just to kind of give you an idea of what what I'm looking at, and also what are the other open issues that I have that can be solved in just in this part. So I would like to in the future to migrate the repo that I have to Meshery itself, and then everybody can contribute at that point. But this is where I have it is very early, mistake prone, so error prone and whatnot. So if anybody would like to provide some insight or try to help anyway, you know, we can do like talk about like how it looked, how does it look in storybook and whatnot. You can let me know, do a shout out in Slack, and we just go from there, or you can respond on the open issue. So that's the current update I have on this particular issue. Does anybody have any comments or would like to ask some questions?
I do. There's yeah. So anyway, this is a positive thing that will hopefully help us, well, do a few things, improve software quality through consistency and reuse of components, have something of a central library for the majority of components that we can reuse. That reuse drives consistency, which drives high quality UX. And so in general, this sort of an effort is quite positive for a number of different reasons. There is, related to this, there's a startup here in Austin where I live. And well, the idea behind their startup is that you'll design things in Figma, and using their solution, you'll get that exported into React, and maybe some other, maybe Vue or other things, but for us, it's React. And so I might ask that they come give a demo. They've been looking for feedback. And so maybe it's of help to us.
Okay, sure. What is the name of this company?
Yeah, I was trying to find it. I'll drop it in as soon as I find it.
Yeah, I've come across Storybook also has a design where you can use Figma. Well, you can go from Storybook to Figma or Figma to Storybook. So that can also help. But since you also mentioned about the company, I have come across a couple of them that claim they can help you, just take the React component from Figma and then convert it. But the ones that I played with, they give you straight up CSS files, not the actual, code from yes,
Yeah.
Harkirat, yes. You can use the React JSON form. Yes. That's one of the things I just added recently to test on, but I haven't gotten further into it. But I think it would be great to have that demo. There was one company called Copycat, and then there's another one called Quest AI. They claim to help you just take the React component and then convert it. But Quest AI is a little bit very closely related to Material UI. I mean, they even use Material UI, and I think I saw they kind of spit out the actual code, but their service costs a little bit money, like $59 or something like that. So yeah.
It's a good differentiation between the JavaScript or the code that actually that implements the thing versus just the style, which is a significant difference. And yeah, even if for the integration between Figma and Storybook, I wonder how deep that goes, or I wonder, that'd be nice to know. Even if it was just styling, it would be whatever tool we might use, that would be, well, potentially a little bit helpful. Something that I'll say this, it's been really difficult to bootstrap this project and the other projects and the community from nothing, from no one. One of the first people to show up was Nikhil Lada, one of our meshmates. And to try to meet the community where they're at in terms of skill set and time, and for the vision of where we want to go. And so I'm pleased that anymore, like we're to a point where like having a design system, having having project colors, a design system of how to use, having those not only mocked up, but then like in a ready-made component repository. Man, like this is great. I mean, this is really like, the thing is if we had invested, like the sooner that we invest in this, the better off we'll be without chasing our tails for bugs and oddities and things that where we're not just intelligently reusing. So like even if for something, you know, like if it's Storybook specifically, or just for a component repository like this, if there is, even if it just has one reusable component, that's a decent start. And like, good, let's get the flow down, the process down, and start to save ourselves time on that component. So I don't know if Harpreet Singh is on the call. He was going to tackle a UI issue or two that cropped up last night. They cropped up because a contributor introduced a bug and made a regression. That would probably be harder to do if we were using consistent components, consistent theme, something that Antonette has spent a fair bit of time with. So, I mean, like, I think this is a really positive thing. And yeah, you're right. Like maybe one of the reasons to take a look at the startup here is that they would, most likely not pay or not charge. But if it's not helpful, then it wouldn't matter. But I'll find the name and see if it makes sense to take a look. Makes sense to have them give an overview or something. There wasn't, man, this is really long-winded. There was another capability that I recently saw. Looked like they were offering about the same thing. Which has been about 5 years now that I've been wondering when someone would do this, because what a massive waste of time handing off between visual designer, the UX designer, and having the CSS Nazi come over, like the UX auditor come over and just tear apart, the implementation, saying, well, the padding's off there, the margin, that doesn't apply to spec, and et cetera. And then the visual designers the UX designers will design things that aren't even feasible inside of the component library that's currently available. And so like, it just becomes a really significant nightmare when it could just be a single thing described in one place that then gets propagated through these phases. Yeah. But if it ends up being fat code, or which a lot of times happens, or ends up being just, only for this, only for certain standard things, or only for CSS, not the implementation and stuff, then its value starts to wane. What's next?
Cool. Next up, we have Harkirat on ad support for policy.
Yeah, just give me 1 second. So, lately, there was a request made. Oh my goodness. Okay, are you able to see my screen, right? Because
Yep,
some
we can.
things. Okay, thank you. So lately there was a request made to add the validation at a very model level of the components. So I added the policies. So I added the validation under the policy, and this PR is way done, like 3 weeks. It was just standing in the future item. So I thought, like, let's discuss about this. And most of the what we say requests made by Ashish were fulfilled, and rest the old tests are passing. And here is the schema.json for the validator. Yeah, this PR was all about adding the validations at the very model level, because Kubernetes resources on its own sometimes it's kind of confusing that the validation, we don't get validation from when we generate the component and register the component. Yeah. So yeah, it was all about this. And thank you.
Yeah. Feedback, questions for Harkirat?
Yeah, there's an open PR on play.meshery.io that deals with validating the submission form for people that want to access the playground. That validation uses a similar regular expression. I think there's currently an open issue or open PR within there. It not only accounts for the expression that Harkirat was just showing, but it also accounts for other other characters like an umlaut from the German language, or like an enye from the Spanish language, or the other special characters. It may or may not be appropriate here, but is something that, like, after we've figured out what the sort of the standard pattern of what constitutes a string, it can be helpful to propagate. Kubernetes largely will enforce a specific DNS-centric RFC certainly for what it'll allow for names. When you go to name a thing, name an object, there's a number of restrictions. You can't start it. You can't start it with this. You can't start it with that. It can't be a white space, etc. So Harkirat, do we have a standard string pattern that we're using?
The name one, the host name one is the standard according to the docs that I read on the Kubernetes, that it should be this, it should be that, right. That's the particular regular expression that we're using for the names. Every field will follow that. And there are a bunch of other that we can just create some regular expression around it. And so RJSF knows about those custom formats that we are adding. Best, thank you.
Cool. Thanks, Harkirat, for the update.
One feedback would be inside of the JSON that you have added, in the model field, you have only provided the name as Kubernetes. So if you would go and register, so all the models are registered through the entities which come under those models. So when you register, let's say a Kubernetes component, it also basically stores the model. So in this case, you haven't specified the version of this Kubernetes. So if you already have a Kubernetes inside of your database, what effectively would happen is a new entry would be created with version field as empty, because what this particular validator or JSON says is that there is a model with the name Kubernetes and the version empty. So either add a version or change it to something else. So yeah, I don't have a solid opinion on what this should be. I'll add that in the PR in a few minutes. But yeah, I just wanted to point out this thing. This thing was also causing duplication previously. So that's why I wanted to point it out.
Okay.
Cool. Thank you, Ashish. So next up we have Harpreet on regrouped applications, filter, and designs.
Okay, I guess my screen is visible.
Yep, it is.
Okay, so I was working on an issue in which I needed to regroup the application files and filters and design files in the UI section of Meshery. So while working on it, I had a suggestion if we could regroup all other files similarly. Like for Meshery settings, we have 3 files. For navigator also, we have 2 or 3 files. I don't remember exactly. So I just wanted to, I had a suggestion. If we could regroup all these files like Meshery settings files, we can add them in a single folder named Meshery settings. So I just wanted to receive review if I could do that. Okay.
That'd be wonderful. Yeah, please organize it. I don't know if this is apparent to everyone else, but what happens we're over 400 contributors to Meshery, but actually specifically just to one of Meshery's repos. There's like 25 Meshery repos, I think, and then there's a bunch of other projects that we have. And so just in that repo, over 400 something people coming by and contributing, wonderful. Some folks stay around for a super long time. Some are here to fix a period and or a sentence, a grammatical thing, and move on so they can attribute that to their profile. Not as wonderful, but fine. And what the point is, what happens over time is things get in disarray. Things get a little messy. You got to, even as you were to build it from scratch, you got to step back at some point, refactor. Yes, please do it. I'm curious, has anyone ever worked in an environment where you share like a network drive? Maybe it's like a Google Drive.
I don't have access to Google Drive. I will be sharing it on Slack.
Okay, great. Yeah, you should get that fixed if you don't have access to Google Drive. Do you know how to do that?
Okay, I don't have access to Google Drive actually.
Yeah. Do you know how to, okay, got you. Do you know how, I'm asking in front of everyone so that everybody else can benefit, because I think some other people may not be aware that there's a significant resource to the community in a shared Google Drive. If anyone that's on the call, if you go to, by the way, if you're on the call and don't have your webcam on, be friendly, turn it on. If you go to drive.google.com, ideally, you'll see a layer 5 community in your shared drive section. If you do, great. There's a lot of docs to read, a lot of things to contribute to inside of there, a lot of assets and resources. There's stuff for back end and front end, the community and blog posts and etc. But if you don't see it under drive.google.io or com, see the link that Gaurav put into the Zoom chat. If you fill in that form, you should then get access, so long as the email address that you put in there is backed by a Google account. Anyway, back to my, let me regale you with this other story of a network drive. Anybody ever shared a network drive with someone else, or been in a workplace or a school place or a club that has a shared drive, an open folder? Anybody?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. Nice. Yeah. And so you've probably experienced the fact that over time, various people put files in there, and it's a little difficult to tell who the owner is, or even if you know who the owner is, you don't quite know if they're done with the document, or if it's still fresh or stale, or if it should be archived or moved around, and after a while it becomes the dumping ground for a lot of things. Well, I'm not saying that Meshery source code is a dumping ground. Rather, I'm saying there's a lot of people in there actively contributing, and it needs curated. It needs cleaned up. So Harpreet, I don't think that it's just the settings area. As a matter of fact, I know that it's not. It's there's a lot to do within Meshery UI.
Yes.
Nice. Perfect.
Thanks, Harpreet. So next up we have Azanul. So Azan would like to share update.
Yeah. Let me share my screen.
Cool.
See that this Zoom app hates me, so lashing between.
Yeah, we are
Is my
still
screen visible?
seeing, nope, we are still seeing a black screen.
How about now?
Nope. If you have a PR, you could share the link in chat.
Okay, sure.
Cool.
It's PR number 7297. I think I get to it before I can.
if you could say the number again or just share the link in chat.
7297. Like my screen is completely stuck. I can't even click it.
Oh.
Kind of. You guys can still hear me.
Yeah, I'm sharing your PR. You can speak.
Okay, so I have made updates to two of the bits. Update Meshery data handler and another. So both were like internally, okay, that was causing nil pointer dereference issue. Okay, there was a data race between that and where it was called. Okay, I had this. Yeah, now I'm able to see my own. Yeah. Could you scroll up a bit? Go to the function definition where it's defined. Yeah. So this function, yeah. So this where this function is called. Okay, we are directly synchronously setting setting its value in the context. Okay, so setting value. Could you? It's like very uncomfortable to explain like this. I have this open. I try to share my screen once more. Okay, it does not. Please work it out.
Or I think, okay, you're sharing.
Yeah, is it visible this time?
Yep, it is.
Okay. So 127.
Your voice is cut off, Azan.
Yeah. So this is So this method, okay, updates value in this map. Okay, control handler map, and there is another method which synchronously returns the same map. Okay, without respecting the mutex.
All right, I'm gonna.
So
I'm gonna
what
cut-
was happening since
yeah,
this?
Dude, I am sorry. I don't think folks can make out quite what you're saying. Or at least I couldn't. I think we. Zone, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. Yeah, one more try, and then we kill it.
Okay, sure. Yeah. Okay, so this function is asynchronous. Internally, it's a coroutine. Okay. This puts a mutex.
I think we have to skip Azan. We are not able
It
to
does not
clearly
respect.
hear you.
Okay, and where this function is called, okay, right after calling this function, we use this method to set this value, which has not yet been updated, which is been updated asynchronously here. Okay, so that kind of sets a nil value there, and results in a nil pointer reference moving forward. So what I have done is I have converted this to synchronous. So that will not happen. And if anyone ever needs to say they can call it.
Yeah. So Ashish, did you had a look on Azan's PR, or do you have any quick comments?
No, I'm just seeing it. I'll drop my comments on the PR. I don't think we have a bandwidth to have a discussion right now about this. Let's move on to the next item.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, thank you for your update, Azan.
I think it's still.
Yeah. So we can't hear you. So Ashish will be adding comments on your PR. So with that, let's move to next item. That's by Ashish. Add support to docs in Meshmodel components.
Yeah, so we have all these components that you can design using MeshMap, and there are a bunch of relationships that you can establish between components depending upon what the component is, and these particular relationships are defined onto their own. There's an API endpoint which gives all the relationship. Not this one. So, like if I look at this component. Now, what I had done was at a component level, I had added this flag that you can provide, which is doc only equals true, which would give you a small description of all the a user-friendly description of all the relationships that you can support. It can be edge or sibling or anything. If for pod, these are the things that it can support for namespace. These are the relationships that it can support, and it can be useful when someone clicks on something and they don't know what to do with this component. They can the tooltip that is opened over here, like we have this on left side, we have space to have another button. When clicked, it would render some like cool page where they can see all the stuff that they can do with it, and maybe it will direct them to a hyperlink inside of the docs, which has the long description of that particular capability. The only question I had about this was, like right now I'm just sending it as a pure HTML format. Should I because its styling would have to be done on the UI side, so maybe some CSS would be applied over there. So partially the HTML is generated on the server side and the styling is on the client side. So should I just instead create a JSON format and just dump it on a JSON format, and the UI should take the decisions on how it wants to format all these things? Or should I improve upon the formatting and generate better HTML and then the UI?
Yeah, just JSON. The API should only ever return JSON.
Yeah.
Not only ever, but I mean, no, it shouldn't return any formatting at all.
Yeah. That's what I had a doubt for. So I'll change this to return the JSON, and then I'll ping for the UI folks to make the changes on the same PR so that they can make use of this thing. And the decision of where that thing will go is still, I think, open.
So if you don't mind, if you visit the Meshery UI settings, I guess you can't do that in the playground, but but on this call, that's what we'll want to generally talk about is Meshery UI, and the settings area is a good place where we have the mesh model summary. So there's an emergent interface, like a component registry browser, so to speak, that lists out the mesh model, the registered mesh model constituents. Mesh model today is comprised of models, components, relationships, and Harkirat was talking about policies. So 4 constructs. And I was mentioning earlier on the call that there was a release of Meshery yesterday that should have or does blow out the number of components that Meshery has embedded. And so if you visit the playground, you can peruse some of those. I thought the list would be a whole lot longer. It's actually quite short. There's only like 43 models, I think. Is that right, Ashish?
Yeah, I don't think all the categories and subcategories are maybe presented over here. There are a few things that are needed to be that are needed to be added.
But in Meshery UI under that, there's that. So this is good for those that are here to contribute to UI or even to the backend in Meshery server. There's a REST API that allows you to interact with the internal capabilities registry. That's the name of the internal subsystem where all of the mesh model artifacts are registered. The mesh model artifacts are those four things that I mentioned: models, components, relationships, policies. It's important for users of Meshery to be able to understand what's available, to what Meshery comprehends, what type of infrastructure Meshery readily comprehends, and what type of infrastructure they can use Meshery to model. So earlier, Yash Sharma had visited the design configurator, and he clicked on the drop down. He saw a Meshery logo and a Kubernetes logo. Oh no, he should have seen Caverno, CubeStats, all the rest of the list of those models. So there's help needed on enhancing it. Yeah, Ashish, if whoever's driving, if you go to designs and you create a new design. Yeah. So we would ideally be seeing maybe the categories show up here for the different models and what type of category they fall into. Hopefully we would be deduplicating some of these components at some point. We would also be showing the rest of the models, because we're just showing Meshery and Kubernetes, but there's a lot of them now. And so there's enhancements needed in this area, design configurator. There's enhancements needed in the settings area under the mesh model registry. And for the most part, or rather not for the most part, there is a REST API for sure. I'm not sure if there's a GraphQL API. There should be if there isn't, for retrieving all this information. And this couldn't be accurate. Pranav Singh, you might even be about to speak up, actually.
Yep, actually, the thing which it is showing right now is the different versions of that particular mesh model registered, not the number of models under that. So it's like this one denotes that we just have one registered version of that model. So that's the thing.
Interesting. So okay. All right.
I implemented it like that, because we didn't discuss after that, like how we want to improve it. So
terrible, unbelievable, horrible. No, thank you for doing it as fast as you did. This is a great start. So yeah, so if you're into UI, please go talk to Pranav Singh. Ashish Tiwari is familiar with this area as well. There's a fair bit of help needed. It's just a set of tables that need to be browsed. People need to be able to see a summary.
And also, I'm not sure that if we have completely migrated to mesh models on the configurator as we have on MeshMap. So that would be the 0th step.
Hey, we just have a little bit of time left. I wanted to get to something that Azan is giving thought to. Azan was just speaking a moment ago about an improvement to the controllers in Meshery. And one of the things that he's been contemplating recently is this particular capability that Meshery doesn't quite have just yet. And that is that the concept that Meshery connects to a number of different systems under management. One of those systems is Kubernetes. Meshery will connect to Kubernetes and help people manage it, help people understand it. Meshery will connect to, well, we were just basically looking at a list of all those things that Meshery understands and will connect to. And this area of Meshery's intelligence is only so smart or only so sophisticated just yet. And actually, I might be quiet for a moment and ask Azan, do you want to talk a little bit about this design, kind of why there is such a thing and how you think about it? Or I can,
yeah, like my approach to this connection thing is creating an abstract for all the connections. Like it is at the end of the day, like connections that Meshery is making with Kubernetes and like its own components. Okay, various connections, and we can create an app for all of them and have a state machine like their state. And like taking up from our recent discussion from Slack, and if you can move over to the slide, the latest slide that you added, I think 28. Yeah. So in this slide, you have like discussed both in both the cases you have discussed how user behaves to interact with Meshery, and then the state changes. Okay. So what I was actually looking into was the server behavior.
Sorry, that was, oops.
Did my voice break in between?
You were about to say what you were looking into is.
Yeah. So what I was looking into was how the server behave in different states. The connection is in registered state. So what does the server do? And if it is in connected state, then what does the server do? And if it is in, let's say, not found state, then what does the server do? Because like it was looking at the diagram and analyzing those states that are already in the spec. It kind of felt like the server would behave exactly the same in some of the cases that are mentioned there.
Yeah, quite possibly, quite possibly so. Let me see if I can get my cursor back. Yeah, so just a quick time check. So we got a couple more minutes. I think this is helpful for anybody this is helpful for everybody on the call. Like if you're going to hang around Meshery, it ultimately becomes probably a subsystem within Meshery that dictates how it is that Meshery interacts with the multitude of integrations that it has. And make no mistake, part of how people will ultimately measure the value that Meshery offers is through the number of integrations that it has and how well it manages those things. So this is a core piece of logic to ensure that we get right and ensure that users and contributors comprehend and agree upon. And so if state machines are unfamiliar to you, then just think of it as a workflow, a flow chart, which it is. Which is to say, like, if we use Kubernetes as an example, Kubernetes is a little bit of a special case in terms of the connections that Meshery will establish. A lot of the connections are Meshery will discover, and it will discover those connections using MeshSync. At least for now, MeshSync is a controller, a custom controller that runs inside of a Kubernetes cluster, and it's one MeshSync per cluster. MeshSync's responsibility is to sit there with as something of a dumb but ignorant but highly oiled machine. Send it back a bunch of updates back to Meshery server, and over time MeshSync will become more configurable in its nature and in what it does. But as it sends over those updates about objects that are running inside of a given Kubernetes cluster, some of those objects will become, those are points of integration for Meshery, like, is there a Prometheus running or a Grafana running? And if MeshSync sees those objects, it will let Meshery server know. Meshery server then looks to see if it can connect it to these different points of integration, like a Prometheus. And so there's some amount of discovery that happened. And we probably want to put actors on here, like this Azan, of like, well, hey, if this is a connection, like a Prometheus connection, and these are the potential states that it transitions through, its full life cycle of how it is that Meshery interacts with it, there's a couple of things to note. One, we should highlight what actor is taking action or responsible for this particular action. Two, we should make sure that we all comprehend what we mean by extension point. Let's talk about that a little bit later. But this discovery phase, right now, it's MeshSync is discovering things in Kubernetes. At some point, MeshSync will broaden its scope of platforms that it discovers. But when it discovers an object, it might be doing a quick discovery. If you've ever done a ping sweep on a network, you just do it real fast, an ICMP ping about as quick as you can, hopefully not setting off port scanners. or intrusion detection systems. When you discover an item, you might then ask it anyway, if you're doing detailed discovery, you'll ask it subsequent questions and figure out, well, like, what type of item is this? Is this a Prometheus or not? In this case, right now, MeshSync isn't that intelligence. And so we're going to rely on the intelligence of the human operator within Meshery. It's Meshery UI to say, okay, well, I see this list of things you've discovered. Yes, that one. That Prometheus I would like to use. Let's register that one for use by Meshery and have Meshery treat it as a thing that it keeps track of and integrates with. Great. So you transition from discovered Prometheus to a registered Prometheus. From there, eventually you might say, you know what, let's delete this one because I don't want Meshery to know about it or use it anymore. So I'm going to delete that integration. Or it could be registered and you might want, and Meshery might be keeping track of the integration. It might be important for Meshery to be scraping the Prometheus metrics routinely so that it can generate an alert and let people know what's going on. Well, at some point, maybe that Prometheus goes under maintenance and you want to actually tell Meshery, hey, don't generate some alerts for a little while, go into maintenance mode. I want you to keep the connection, understand that it's still there. I don't want to delete it and lose all my history. I just want to go into this maintenance mode. So they go ahead and do that and we'll schedule that maintenance. That could be another possible transition. Another transition, it doesn't look like there's a direct arrow to ignored, but it might be that when things are discovered, you might, in that long list, you might say, yeah, that Prometheus, that's Shivam's Prometheus. I never want to use that one. I'm just going to click ignore on that one. So Meshery is cognizant of it and is aware of the fact that there's an element there, but intentionally it's been chosen to be ignored and to be hidden from the filters and the view of this particular user. That's another concept that needs to be understood, is that when we're talking about the user that's taking action on these elements, is that user and their actions, is that having a pervasive system level effect and affecting all other users of the system, or is that only affecting a given user? In this case, we'll start with just, it'll have a system-wide effect. That explains a little bit of the transitions. I did this pretty quick one night, this slide, which we won't talk about because there's more to talk about with respect to, well, extensibility and discovery tiers. Kubernetes, very quickly, and I know that I'm going really fast and not pausing for explanation or questions because we're over time. Kubernetes starts potentially a little bit differently. Mesheryctl and Meshery server will both attempt to discover and greedily connect to any number of Kubernetes clusters that it is presented with. And so that process starts from somewhere. Maybe you've uploaded a kube config, or maybe there's a kube config resident on the file system upon which Meshery server or Mesheryctl are invoked or running. And then we kind of go, and then like there's sort of this implicit, like, well, if you've got them in your kube config, we're going to go ahead and attempt to register and use them for you and get connected to them. And anyway, there's more to say about these different states and the behaviors behind them and things. But so there's a design spec that's needed to be written. To Azan's point, Azan's question is a great question. It's like, okay, good. So thanks for that, Lee. I already understood and comprehended the fact that these are different states and we transition through them. But like, no, specifically, if someone says disconnect, then what's the server supposed to do? Well, right here, it's supposed to remove the operator. Or, like there's just super small notes about what that might be. We need a larger design spec. Something that I would like to hear from you, Azan, soon, is whether or not there's existing Golang libraries that we might use to facilitate this type of state machine, or if you think this is something that just needs to be written from scratch. If you say that it needs to be written from scratch, I'd like for you to prove that, which is fine, but just show how you've examined other packages and show that like these don't work and they don't make sense. It would take too much time to reconfigure them. Please bear this in mind as you go to contemplate that. And that is that one of the things that I'm going to slide down, one of the things that Meshery desires or intends to be before it hits a 1.0, and the roadmap is in this same deck and it's available to all of you that follow what Harpreet was having trouble with and getting onto the community drive. This is on the community drive, so go check it out, comment on it. One of the things that Meshery intends to be is, or have, damn it, I think we removed it, is to have a workflow engine. And that workflow engine, here we go, is, well, the one that we've chosen is temporal. which is a variant or fork of Cadence from Uber. It's written in Golang. It used to require Cassandra, which is fucking heavy and terrible. But now it supports Postgres, which is great because that's also something that Meshery is on the cusp of supporting. And so that workflow engine, I mention it because as you consider what might be used for a state machine library, it would be beneficial for us to spend a moment reflecting on the capabilities of a workflow engine like Temporal, understanding that it is also likely to, it has to deal with state. As it executes a workflow and executes through many activities, some of those activities are going to fail, and it's going to need to have constructs for dealing with state. And so maybe we'd want to be using a capability of Temporal to help with tracking connection status. That's it. Polak, nice to meet you, man. Thanks for coming. Anybody have any quick thoughts on that before we head out? Azan or other?
Like there are no quick, like it will take if we start talking about this again, like it will be too much time.
Yeah.
Cool. So yeah, we are 8 minutes over, and yeah, that was a good discussion. So thank you all for joining today's Meshery development meeting, and don't forget to subscribe to events calendar. Do press this big fat yellow button. So thank you all for joining today. Bye everyone. We'll meet you next week.
Bye-bye.
Happy Holi. Bye guys.
Bye.